Noise limiter is provided on AM receivers to A. Reduce interfering noise due to ignition system. B. Reduce noise due to electrical storms. C. Reduce interference due to electrical machinery. D. All of the above. The correct answer is all of the above. A low ratio of the AC load impedance of a diode detector results in A. Diagonal clipping. B. Poor AGC operation. C. Poor AF response. D. Negative peak clipping. The correct answer is negative peak clipping. A trimmer is basically A. Insulator. B. Inductor. C. Capacitor. D. Variable resistor. The correct answer is capacitor. In a radio receiver, A. All stages contribute equally to noise. B. RF stage has no effect on SN ratio. C. Mixer stage contributes most of the noise generated. D. The correct answer is mixer stage contributes most of the noise generated. Which curve represents the fidelity curve of a standard receiver? A. Curve A. B. Curve B. C. Curve C. D. Curve D. The correct answer is curve C. The sensitivity of a superheterodyne receiver is determined by A. The gain of amplifier. B. The gain of RF amplifier. C. The noise figure. D. All of the above. The correct answer is all of the above. In a radio receiver, A. The local oscillator frequency is made higher than the incoming signal frequency. B. The local oscillator frequency is made lower than the incoming signal frequency. C. The local oscillator frequency is made equal to the incoming signal frequency. D. The correct answer is the local oscillator frequency is made higher than the incoming signal frequency. In radio receiver, the maximum contribution to noise is from A. Mixer stage. B. Power supply. C. Power amplifier. D. Equally from above 3. The correct answer is power amplifier. Power spectral density of white noise. A. Is constant with frequency. B. Increases with frequency. C. Decreases with frequency. D. None. The correct answer is constant with frequency. In a FM waveform, the side bands are spaced at intervals equal to A. 4 times the modulating frequency. B. Twice the modulating frequency. C. Half the modulating frequency. D. Modulating frequency. The correct answer is half the modulating frequency. A receiver having an RF amplifier and an IF of 450 kHz has Q of the coils 65 and an incoming frequency of 1200 kHz. The image rejection of the receiver is A. 5870, B. 3655, C. 236, D. 13.3. The correct answer is 236. A PADA is basically A insulator, B. Variable resistor, C. Capacitor, D. Inductor. The correct answer is capacitor. In a radio receiver, the local oscillator is always tuned to a frequency higher than the incoming frequency to A. Facilitate tracking. B. Allow permit adequate frequency coverage without switching. C. Facilitate image frequency rejection. D. All of the above. The correct answer is allow permit adequate frequency coverage without switching. When a superheterodyne receiver is tuned to 455 kHz, its local oscillator provides a mixer with the input at 1010 kHz. The image frequency is A. 555 kHz, B. 1010 kHz, C. 1465 kHz, D 1920 kHz. The correct answer is 1465 kHz. In a broadcast superheterodynes receiver having no RF amplifier, the loaded Q of the antenna coupling circuit is 100. If the intermediate frequency is 455 kHz, the image frequency at 1000 kHz will be A 1010 kHz, B 1455 kHz, C 1910 kHz, D 545 kHz. The correct answer is 1910 kHz. In a superheterodyne receiver, the F stage has better selectivity than RF stage because A of higher frequency, B of lower frequency, C of high LC ratio, D of constant passband. The correct answer is of constant passband. An arbitrary signal MT has zero average value and it is bandlimited to 3.2 kHz. It is sampled at the rate of 8K samples s. The samples are passed through an ideal bandpass filter with center frequency of 32 kHz and bandwidth of 6.4 kHz. The output of bandpass filter is A AMDSB signal with suppressed carrier, B AMDSB signal with carrier, C AMSSB signal with carrier, D a sequence of exponentially decaying sine waves. The correct answer is AMDSB signal with carrier. The purpose of incorporating a pre-selector stage in a receiver is to A. Provide higher selectivity, B. Provide higher fidelity, C. Improve linearity, D. Larger passband. The correct answer is provide higher selectivity. Vividh Bharati program is transmitted in A. Shortwave, B. Medium frequency, C. Very high frequency, D. All of the above. The correct answer is medium frequency. The image frequency of a superheterodyne receiver is A. Independent of the frequency at which the receiver is tuned, B. Always outside the operating range of the receiver, C. Typical to FM receivers only, D. Not rejected by the F-tuned circuits. The correct answer is typical to FM receivers only. In a receiver, which of the following device has RF input but F output? A. Loudspeaker, B. Frequency changer, C. Demodulator, D. Audio amplifier. The correct answer is frequency changer. The F stage of a receiver employs A. Capacitive coupling, B. Impedance coupling, C. Double-tuned transformer coupling, D. Single-tuned transformer coupling. The correct answer is double-tuned transformer coupling. A FM signal with modulation index MF is passed through a frequency doubler. The wave in the output of the doubler will have modulation index of AMF, BMF2, C2MF, DUMF. The correct answer is 2MF. Double spotting in a receiver is due to A. Poor sensitivity of RF amplifier, B. High gain of F amplifier, C. Inadequate image frequency rejection, D. All of the above. The correct answer is inadequate image frequency rejection. 3-point tracking can be achieved with A. Gang condenser, B. Variable selectivity, C. Put-the capacitor, D. Any of the above. The correct answer is variable selectivity. In a transistor receiver, the use of FET as the first stage amplifier is likely to A. Improve selectivity of the receiver, B. Improve the effectiveness of the AGC, C. Reduce the effect of negative peak clipping, D. Reduce the effect of noise at all frequencies. The correct answer is reduce the effect of negative peak clipping. The household radio receiver uses A. Synchronous. B. Envelope detector. C. Radio detector. D. None of the above. The correct answer is envelope detector. The source of which of the following noise is different from that of the remaining? A. Solar noise. B. Cosmic noise. C. Galactic noise. D. Atmospheric noise. The correct answer is atmospheric noise. A receiver having poor if selectivity will also have poor A. Sensitivity. B. Double spotting. C. Blocking. D. All of the above. The correct answer is blocking. Statement 1. Diode is the most common device used for demodulation. Statement 2. A discriminator is a FM detector. A. Statement 1 is true but statement 2 is false. B. Statement 1 is false but statement 2 is true. C. Both the statements are true. D. Both the statements are false. The correct answer is both the statements are true. The selectivity curve of a standard receiver is represented by A. Curve A, B. Curve B, C. Curve C, D. Curve D. The correct answer is curve C. Which of the following statement about the advantage of phase discriminator over the slope detector is false? A. Fewer tuned circuits. B. Better linearity. C. Greater limiting. D. Much easier alignment. The correct answer is greater limiting. Fidelity of a receiver represents A. The sensitivity expressed in terms of voltage that must be applied to the receiver input to give a standard output. B. The extent to which the receiver is capable of distinguishing between the desired signal and other frequencies. C. The variation of the output with the modulation frequency when the output impedance is a resistance. D. None of the above. The correct answer is the variation of the output with the modulation frequency when the output impedance is a resistance. Which of the following produces upper and lower side frequencies? A. Microphone. B. Demodulator in a superheterodyne receiver. C. Modulator in a radio transmitter. D. Oscillator in a receiver. The correct answer is microphone. The passband of the tuned circuits of a radio receiver should be equal to A. 20 kHz, B. 455 kHz, C. 1455 kHz, D. More than 455 kHz. The correct answer is 20 kHz. In a broadcast superheterodynes receiver having no RF amplifier, the loaded Q of the antenna coupling circuit is 100. If the intermediate frequency is 455 kHz. In receivers operating up to the limit of shortwave broadcasting, the local oscillator often used is A. Armstrong oscillator, B. Colpitts oscillator, C. Clap oscillator, D. Ultra audio oscillator. The correct answer is Armstrong oscillator. RF amplifiers are used in radio receivers for A. Better sensitivity, B. Improved signal-to-noise ratio, C. Better coupling of receiver to the antenna, D. All of the above. The correct answer is all of the above. In an FM signal, the power A. increases as the modulation index increases, B. reduces as the modulation index increases, C. increases as the modulation index decreases, D. remains constant when the modulation index increases. The correct answer is remains constant when the modulation index increases. An unmodulated voltage 10V effective is applied to a dioxide detector in which load resistance is 4x 10⁵ ohms. A micrometer shows that the rectified DC current in this resistance is 30 A. The efficiency of detection is A. 34, B. 55.5, C. 68.8, D 84.7. The correct answer is 84.7. Selectivity varies with receiving frequency. Frequency is raised. A. Somewhat better when the receiving frequency is raised. B. Somewhat better at intermediate frequency. C. Somewhat worse when the receiving frequency is lowered. D. Somewhat worse when the receiving frequency is raised. The correct answer is somewhat worse when the receiving frequency is raised. FM receivers using the standard 88 to 108 MHz band use if of A. 8 MHz, B. 9.9 MHz, C. 10.7 MHz, D. 12.2 MHz. The correct answer is 10.7 MHz. Most of the amplification of the received signal is obtained in a superheterodyne receiver from the A. F stage, B. RF stage, C. Power amplification stage, D. None of the above. The correct answer is F stage. The problem associated with tuned radio frequency receiver is A. Instability, B. Insufficient adjacent frequency rejection, C. Bandwidth variation, D. All of the above. The correct answer is all of the above. Which of the following noise becomes of great importance at high frequencies? A. Transit time noise, B. short noise, C. flicker noise, D. agitation noise. The correct answer is transit time noise. Superheterodyne receiver can be used in A. AM, B. FM, C. SSB, D. all of the above. The correct answer is all of the above. In a receiver at higher frequencies, A. tracking will be improved, B. tracking will be poor, C. selectivity will be poor, D. image frequency rejection will be poor. The correct answer is tracking will be improved. Which of the following circuit cannot be used to demodulate SSB? A. phase discriminator, B. produce detector, C. balanced modulator, D. beat frequency oscillator. The correct answer is phase discriminator. High if in a superheat receiver. A. improves selectivity, B. increases tracking problems, C. decreases tracking problems, D. reduces adjacent channel rejection. The correct answer is increases tracking problems. The typical squelch circuit. A. cuts off an if amplifier when the AGC is maximum, B. cuts off an if amplifier when the AGC is minimum, C. cuts off an audio amplifier when the carrier is absent, D. eliminates the RF interference when the signal is weak. The correct answer is cuts off an audio amplifier when the carrier is absent. A communication channel with additive wide Gaussian noise has a bandwidth of 4 kHz and an SNR of 15. Its channel capacity is A. 1.6 kbps, B. 16 kbps, C. 32 kbps, D. 256 kbps. The correct answer is 16 kbps.